and welcome back. If you're new, thanks for stopping by. In today's video, we'll turn affordable finds from the Dollar Tree into stunning wood crafts that will add a personal touch to your home. Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting. Let's get started on creating something amazing together. For this craft, we're going to transform this wood box from the Dollar Tree, a staple in the Crafter Square section, into an adorable wheelbarrow. We're going to start out by painting our little box with some Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. And once our paint has completely dried, I'm taking some Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink, and I'm going to just dry brush around the outside of this box. And while we have our ink paint out, I'm going to go ahead and paint two of my tumbling tower blocks that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then I painted two square dowels that I found on Amazon. And if you can't find these dowels, chopsticks or round dowels will work just the same. Let's set these aside to dry and go back to our wood box. I have this adorable stencil that I did get on Amazon, and I'll put a link for it in my description box below. These work great for ornaments and all sorts of different things. We're going to place this on the side of our little box, and using some redesigned chalk paste in the color Iron Gate, we're going to just go ahead and squeegee that over the top of our stencil. And then we'll remove the stencil, and I washed it and did the same thing on the other side. Next, let's work on our wheel for our wheelbarrow. I am using an ornament piece. This is a wood slice, and this one had a eye hook at the top, so I just removed that from my ornament, and I'll save that eye hook for another craft. Now, using our Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink, we'll go ahead and paint both sides of this wood slice. Paint has dried. I grabbed my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I'm just going to go ahead and dry brush around the outside edge of our wood slice. And while we have our plaster colored paint out, I want to paint two little half beads, and I'm taking a piece of painter's tape and I just lay that out onto my piece of cardboard, and I'm just going to place those wood beads on top so that they don't move around, making it a lot easier to paint and keeping my hands mess free. Now, once all of our pieces have completely dried, I'm going to put together our little wheelbarrow, and I'm using wood glue and hot glue for this. And we're starting out by adding our little tumbling blocks to the back side of this wood box. Now let's go ahead and make our wheel for our wheelbarrow. I am using my two wood dowels and some wood glue and a little bit of hot glue. And I'm starting out by just doing the first wood dowel on the wheel. I'm trying to align it up right where I would like it. I'm adding that hot glue to the skewer, and we're just going to go ahead and place that at a slight angle. And this is probably the hardest part of the whole entire craft, is getting that right angle on our wheel. And once you get that perfect, you go ahead and do the next side the exact same way. I didn't have to hold this while it was drying. I did use my pink clip from the Dollar Tree, and I just attached that at the end of the wheel there. And once that has completely dried, I take my hot glue and I'm going to just hot glue my half beads to the end of that dowel. And then we repeat that same step for the other bead, and our little wheel base is ready to attach to our wheelbarrow. And to attach our wheel base, I'm just flipping our box over, and we'll use some hot glue to attach our base to our box. And what I love about this wheelbarrow is you can decorate it any way you'd like for whatever season. So for this season, for the fall, I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing into the box, and I'm using some black and white checkered ribbon to go around the edge of the box just to give it a little bit more dimension. And for my final ad, I'm going to take these velvet pumpkins that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to stick them inside the wheelbarrow. And I just love how this wheelbarrow turned out. It is amazing. And I cannot wait to display this for multiple seasons. Let me know in the comments below what you would display in your little wheelbarrow. And if you're enjoying this content, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. It really helps my channel grow. Thank you. So head on over to your craft or square section and grab some wood hangers. I have two 18 by 4.5 wood hangers and 2 of the little pallets. And I'm going to start out by just removing the little hangers from the hangers. We're not going to use these for this craft. Next, I'm going to grab a large piece of cardboard and I'm going to go ahead and just tape down the 2 hangers and the 2 pallets to this piece of cardboard. And this is going to make it a lot easier to paint each side of these pieces. And me personally, I prefer to paint the pieces prior to putting it together, just because I feel like it's a little bit easier for me. But you can do whatever you would like. If you would rather put this together and then paint it, you can do that as well. Now let's grab our paint, and I'm going to use the Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster for this. And I'm just going to paint a nice coat of paint over the top of these pieces. Now I ended up doing 2 coats of paint on each side just because I really wanted a nice white look. And once these have completely dried on this side, I'm just going to flip these over, re-tape them down using the same pieces of painter's tape. And then I'll just paint the opposite side, again with 2 coats of that Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. Now, once these are completely dry, I am going to use some of my stencils out of my stash. And these first 2 stencils I did get on Amazon, so I'll put links in my description box below. And I'm going to start out by just doing the pumpkin and the home sweet home on one of these boards. And I'm going to be using my redesigned chalk paste, which I also did get on Amazon. And this color is called Iron Gate. And I just squeegee this over the top of the stencil. And once we get that coated completely, we'll pull these stencils off while it is still wet. I am going to reapply the little pumpkin stencil on the other side of these words, and we'll do the exact same thing. Now for the other board, I am going to use a Merry and Bright stencil, and I love this stencil. This is from Chalk Couture, and I'll leave a link for Brenda down in my description box below. She sells Chalk Couture. This is an older stencil, so I'm not sure if it's still available, but she has lots of fun stencils on her site. So anyways, I am going to just go ahead and use my chalk paste again on this. And we'll go ahead and once this is completely coated, we'll pull that stencil off. Now, after these stencils have completely dried, I did notice that there were a few marks of black paint that I didn't want on my board. So I am going back over with some of my plaster colored paint and just lightly covering those so that everything is the way I would like it. Now let's grab some Waverly chalk paint in the color ink and a stencil brush. And this brush, I am really lightly putting that paint on there. And I'm just going to do a very light dry brush around the edges of these boards and around the edges of the little palettes. Now let's go ahead and construct our little box. So I'm using some wood glue, and this wood glue I did get at the Dollar Tree, but you can use whatever wood glue you'd like. And I am going to start by just doing one of the long boards and the 2 pallets first. And I start out by just kind of balancing the pallets and then putting the top board on top. And then I take that off, and then I'm going to go ahead and use some of that wood glue on the top part of that palette, and that's what we're going to set our board onto. And I do this in 2 steps. So we're going to just do one side first, let it dry for 2 hours. And then once that's dried enough to where I can flip it over, we're going to do the other side. So here is what it looks like with just the one side being glued and waiting for it to dry. Now, there might be better ways to do this, so I'd love for you guys to leave comments below on how you would do this, but this was probably the most frustrating part of putting this box together, was trying to find a way to do this without breaking the box. So after about 2 hours, I was able to flip this box over, and I did the exact same thing where I put a little bit of that wood glue on the top part of that palette, and then I'm going to go ahead and set my board on top. And make sure that you have your words going the right direction. So this looks like it's backwards right now on the screen, but that is on purpose because that is the way I needed the box to sit when I was putting this together. So the next day I came back to finish the box. So I set this box on top of a piece of white cardboard, and I'm going to go ahead and take a pencil and trace the inside of this box onto the piece of cardboard. Next, I'm going to take my razor blade and just go ahead and cut that cardboard out to fit inside the box. Now, using my hot glue, I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece of cardboard to the box from the inside of the box. Now, time for some finishing touches. I have these thumbtacks that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I like the shape of them. They're like a square pyramid looking shape. And I thought that these would be really cool to put on my box. But I didn't want them to be gold, so I'm just going to press them into a piece of cardboard here to make it easier for me to paint them. So while we have a moment, I want to tell you all about this playlist I'm a part of this month. What Would You Make? Hosted by Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIYs, Christine from Divine Design, and the guest host this month is Brandy from the DIY Struggles. This playlist is all about crafting with wood. So if you're interested in wood crafts, I would check out this playlist. The playlist link is in my description box below, and I will try to remember to pin them to my comments as well to make it really easy for you to be able to check everybody out. Thank you so much for watching, and now back to the video. So once we have all of our push pins painted, I am going to grab my wire cutters and I'm just going to clip off the ends of those pins, and that will make it a lot easier for me to glue these onto my box. So I'm going to put a pin in each corner of the long boards, and this will cover up the 2 holes that were in the board originally for the hanger. So this makes it really nice. It just finishes the board off, but also covers those holes for me. And I'm using Fix All. It's a super glue product that is found at Dollar Tree, but you can use hot glue or any other sort of all-purpose glue that you feel that would work for you. Now here is what our box looks like. I just love this. It's versatile. You can use it for Christmas or for fall. And I think this just looks amazing. So this fall piece, I just put a few pumpkins in. And for the Christmas side, I added some little balls and some Christmas trees. But you can fill this with whatever you like. This is just an idea to get your creative juices flowing. This lovely sign I found at the Dollar Tree, but I wanted to give it a makeover. I'm going to start out by removing the little pieces of wood on the front side of this wood pumpkin. Next, I'm going to remove the little bow on the front of this project. While it is very cute, it's not going to match what I'm doing, so I'm going to set this aside and we'll use this for a future project. Now I'm going to grab my favorite tool in the toolbox, which is my zip sander, and I'm going to just sand the front of my piece. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. All I'm doing is trying to take any rough spots off, making it a little bit easier for when I decide to paint this to coat over the top. And once we have wiped everything down, I am going to take some painter's tape and tape this down to a paintable surface. This will make it a little bit easier for me to paint the sides of this piece. Now let's go ahead and grab our Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster. And I'm going to paint a nice coat of paint all over the top and on the sides and stem of this pumpkin. Now once this paint has completely dried, and I did do 2 coats of the Plaster colored paint, I am grabbing my Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink, and I'm taking a really fine tip brush. And you would think with a line in the pumpkin I could draw a straight line. And yeah, it's close. It's not quite straight, but it does work since we are going farmhouse style. So that is fine. But I'm just taking this paint and I'm going to paint the inside line on this pumpkin. Now next I did take a brush, and the brush had no paint on it to begin with, and I just went ahead and painted over the top of where the wet paint was from the original lines that I created. Then I took whatever paint was on the brush still and did some shadowing around the outside, and eventually I added a little bit more paint, and then I had too much. So then I used a baby wipe and I just wiped some of that down, and I liked how it turned out. It had that darkness in the center on the lines and had just that little farmhouse touch on our pumpkin. And for my last step here is I am going to take some hot glue and hot glue a black and white checkered bow to the very top. Now here's what our little wood pumpkin turned out like. I just love the farmhouse feel and the white and the black. It is so simple but so elegant. I just love these little cutting boards from the Dollar Tree. And earlier this year, I did a fun decoupage project, and I'll put a link to that video up above here. But I am not going to use this during this winter time, so I wanted to flip it over and do something more wintry on the back side. And I wanted to paint the back side of this, so I'm taking some painter's tape and I'm just going to tape up the twine that's on there to make it easier to paint the back side of this, because I do want this to be a fully versatile reversible sign. Now using my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, I am going to paint 2 coats of paint over this cutting board. Next, I grabbed this adorable stencil out of my stash. I did not get a chance to use this last year, so I really was excited to use this. And this says sweater weather, and I just love that saying. I think it's so cute. It's great for fall, winter, and Christmas. And I'm just going to stick this over the top of our cutting board here, and using my Waverly chalk paint in the color Ink, I am just going to paint over the top. And this stencil is from Amazon, so I will put a link for it in my description box below if you're interested in checking this out. Now while this paint is still wet, I'm going to go ahead and just pull this stencil off. And once everything is dry, I am going to remove that painter's tape from our little twine bundle at the top. And I thought that this would look nice with a little bow to match like the other side. So I just did a quick finger bow, and I am hot gluing that to the top on top of the twine. Now our little shelf sitter is ready to display. I just love how this turns out. I think this is a warm and cozy decor piece and will go great from now through February. And there you have it. 4 beautiful wood decor pieces that will be perfect to transition from fall into winter. I hope you enjoyed these crafts as much as I did, and if you're looking for more fun and creative craft ideas, be sure to check out my next video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, craft more, stress less.